All right, we're going to get started. Members of the commission, are you ready?
Yes.
Commissioner Olson, are you ready to start? Okay, I'll
Ready.
get started then.
Jay is the only one who hasn't joined us.
Okay, I've sent him the invite again, and I'm assuming that he will join us, but we do have a quorum, so I'm going to go ahead and get started if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, good evening and welcome to the 4th Regional Public Meeting of the Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission. This meeting is being recorded. As we begin, there are a few matters to share regarding the rules and policies for this evening's meeting, as well as some tips about the platform that will assist our speakers in better understanding how to use Zoom. This meeting offers Spanish interpretation. To listen in Spanish, you'll simply go to the bottom of your toolbar and select the interpretation feature and select Spanish. Because we are offering this service, we do ask those who are speaking to please try to remember to speak clearly and slowly so that the interpreter is able to provide that service for those who join us that way. There is a 3-minute allotment for speakers so that everyone who wants to speak has their due time. When there is 20 seconds left of your speaking time, a screen share will come on with a countdown timer. We ask that you wrap up your comments by the end of that timer reaching 0. Inappropriate speaking, attire, behavior, or background will result in removal from the meeting without the option to rejoin. Anyone registering to speak after 5 p.m. today should ask to join as a speaker in the chat section, as your name will not be listed on the list of pre-registered speakers. If you did not register to speak, we ask that you do so through the chat box to a message with the panelists, providing your name and the county in which you reside. Please don't use the raise hand feature for this, as that is not a way that we will be able to recognize that you would like to speak. Speakers should ensure that their name is listed properly on their registration, and if not, please change your name on your attendee box to reflect the proper name you would like to be used. That's how we identify you in the attendees list that we have to promote you to a panelist to be able to speak live during this meeting. Please note that the participants and attendees list is not public, and we do that to protect the privacy of those calling in due to their phone numbers being listed. Pre-registered speakers will go first, then chat features will be called in order of that request. Speakers providing testimony should be aware that they will be made a panelist, which will enable them to unmute and turn on their camera. There may be a short delay while the speaker's screen goes from attendee to panelist. This is normal. The speaker will see a screen message indicating that the host would like to promote you to be a panelist. The speaker needs to accept by clicking the Join as Panelist button. We'll wait around 5 seconds for the speaker to go live. Please remember that when you do accept and become a panelist, that you unmute, and if you would like to be on camera, that you also enable your camera feature. If the speaker doesn't join within that period of time, we'll simply move on to the next speaker and come back to anyone who may have missed their turn prior to ending the meeting. Once you finish speaking, you'll be moved back to the attendee status. This may result in the speaker seeing a spinning wheel or a message on your screen indicating that you are rejoining the meeting. The speaker is not being removed from the meeting. It's just the Zoom platform changing screens. So don't worry that you're being kicked out of the meeting. We know this is a lot of information, but want to assist you in understanding how this meeting will operate so it can go as smoothly as possible. With that, I would like to introduce you to the host for this evening's meeting, Walter Olson, who serves as one of the co-hosts of the Maryland Citizens Redistricting Commission. Commissioner Olson?
Thank you, Kristen. Welcome to members of the public, commissioners. And we always start by introducing ourselves. I'm Walter Olson. I live in Frederick County. My day job is with a think tank in Washington, D.C. And why don't we start with Dr. Kate Hetherington.
Thank you, Walter. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kate Hetherington. I'm president of Howard Community College, and I reside in Howard County.
Good evening. I'm Alex Williams. I'm a retired United States District Court judge for the District of Maryland, and I reside in Prince George's County, Maryland. I'm a
Jay?
Good evening. My name is Jay Amin. I'm a land broker and development executive for a boutique land brokerage firm in Ellicott City, Maryland, and I'm a resident of Anne Arundel County.
Cheryl?
Good evening. I'm Cheryl Brooks. I'm a proud elementary school principal, and I'm a resident of Baltimore County.
Good evening. I'm Mary Clausen. I'm a retired federal employee, and I live in Anne Arundel County.
Kim?
Hi, I'm Kim Cummings, longtime resident of the Eastern Shore. I'm employed with the Maryland Judiciary at the Circuit Court in Dorchester County, where I reside as a supervisor in land records and licensing.
Jonathan?
Hi, I'm Jonathan Fussfield. I'm a resident of Montgomery County. I'm a communications manager for a research firm in Bethesda, Maryland.
William?
Good evening. My name is William Tipper Thomas. I'm a senior principal engineer for the Department of Defense, and I'm also a grassroots organizer, and I live in Baltimore City.
Well, thank you. Just a few more comments reiterating things that Kristen said. This is a hearing that will focus on the 4 Western Maryland counties, but it is open to anyone who wants to give testimony. If you know people who missed tonight's meeting and want to talk about Western Maryland issues, they are welcome to come to later hearings over the next 4 weeks. This is also just the first round of hearings. Our commission will be holding further rounds when census data is available and when we have proposed maps. So hold those ideas or send them in by email because we want to hear from you all year. Now, this is, I believe, our biggest hearing yet and has the longest sign-in sheet. So I'm going to go directly to calling on members of the public, and I think that Kristen can get us there with the first name.
I can. Our first speaker this evening is Jeannie Massey from Washington County. You are now a panelist. Please remember to make active your video and your microphone if you would like to be on camera. All right, you're live.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jeannie Massey, and I'm a social studies teacher and a mother of 3 out here in Washington County. I speak tonight on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Washington County. The League of Women Voters is the nation's oldest nonpartisan voter education and grassroots advocacy group. We do not support specific political candidates or parties, but act as a trusted source of information during elections, for example, through our Vote 411 voter guides and candidate forums. The Washington County League appreciates the opportunity to provide comments at this listening session. We'd like to commend your service to the people of Maryland. We believe this type of multi-partisan approach for drawing district boundaries is the best vehicle for promoting fair and effective representation in the state legislature and the House of Representatives. We share with you a joint aspiration for a redistricting process that will become a model for Maryland and even other states for decades to come. Throughout our 100-year history, the League has stood for the power of the people in government. However, our efforts to support the democratic process in Western Maryland have been hampered by partisan gerrymandering. The overt manipulation of the redistricting process over the years convinces voters of minority parties that the process is rigged. When the public loses faith in the system, some people will seek alternative paths to power, which we saw in evidence on January 6th. We hope this commission will be able to rectify the way the 6th congressional district was drawn to the advantage of one party, rather than to the advantage of the residents of Western Maryland. Democracy is built on trust, and at this moment, we need to rebuild that trust with every decision we make. Washington County sits at the crossroads of two interstates and has been known as the hub city for generations, thanks to the railroads that intersect here. This transportation nexus provides mixed blessings to our community, all of which have escalated due to the recent pandemic. The highways bring battlefield tourists as well as homeless transients. They bring gargantuan Amazon warehouses and their many jobs, as well as wage pressure on small local businesses. They bring hikers and bikers to the Appalachian Trail and the C&O Canal, as well as drugs and human trafficking. Our community has so much potential, yet faces significant challenges that deserve the attention of our civic institutions and our political leaders. This leads me to my most important ask of you. Please, make every effort to reach out to our underserved communities. While every Maryland resident deserves to be heard, the members of the League of Women Voters have a special responsibility to give voice to the voiceless. Our state league is working with the underserved communities in our state to identify communities of interest that should be kept intact in the mapping process. We hope that this commission will draw maps and empower voters and their neighborhoods to participate fully in the democratic process. In closing, the League of Women Voters believes that creating a fair and impartial map for the next decade of our collective civic life is truly an act of patriotism, and we thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeannie Massey. Kristen, what's the next name on the list?
All right, the next name on the list is Delegate Dan Cox. Unfortunately, he hasn't been able to join us as of yet, so we're going to move to Mary Costello. And Ms. Costello, you're now a panelist. You'll just need to unmute.
Need to unmute Ms. Costello.
There should be a microphone in the lower right corner of the control bar at the bottom of your, there you are.
I did not sign up to comment, so I'm here to listen.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Next name.
The next person we have is Delegate Jessie Pippe. And I just need to go find.
I will say he was in communication saying that he had a conflicting meeting that he might have to go to. So if his name is not on the list, that may be why.
He is here. I've just promoted him.
He is, okay, good.
Yes. Delegate Pippe, you're now a panelist. There you are.
Perfect. Thank you for having me. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. My name is Delegate Jessie Pippe. I represent parts of Frederick and Carroll County. More importantly, I am a registered voter and a Maryland citizen. And like my fellow citizens in Western Maryland, we're just looking for fair maps. We've heard the narrative before. I've heard individuals talking about drawing Maryland to where there are no minority representatives in the House. And then I've also heard that we shouldn't do anything until the rest of the country gets their act together. And what I recommend, and I'm sure you've heard it, is that Maryland, we lead by example. We do what's right, regardless of what other states may or may not do. I think this is a great opportunity for Maryland to show the rest of the country that we're putting the citizens first, we're putting the voters first, and that ultimately we're going to do the right thing. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. And on behalf of the 130,000 people that I represent, they appreciate the opportunity to move Maryland in the right direction. So thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Pippe. Kristen, who is next on the list?
All right, the next is Bob Spear from Garrett County. I did send some materials that Mr. Spear sent earlier today to the commission as well. Mr. Spear, you're now a panelist. You'll need to unmute and start your camera if you'd like to be on camera.
There it is. The screen kind of evaporated there for a minute. Thank you very much. I first of all want to really commend the commission on going around the state on a listening tour to listen to the citizens of Maryland. I just think that's critical for improving the democratic process in our state and around the country. I wish all citizens organizations would follow in like manner. I have a proposal for redistricting. I sent a very brief version of it around to the commission today. I won't completely go over that because it's a little long, but I do want to highlight the important parts of it. The first thing is that I think that we should agree on what our objectives are. And to my mind, there are 4. They are to equalize the populations of all CDs within a state, to keep neighbors together, defining neighbors as people living in the same zip code tabulation area, to draw a compact shape, and to avoid all other considerations. I think that's important. We have many considerations that have been considered in redistricting in the past. Some of them have been ruled illegal. Some of them have Supreme Court has allowed to continue to exist, like political affiliation and political gerrymandering. But others, such as race and ethnicity, have been determinative in not allowing certain districts that discriminate on that basis. But I think that all of the considerations taken together, we'd be better off without any of them, because we would end up with, if we just use population, compactness, keeping neighbors together, if we follow those 3 things, we will be much better off. Secondly, I think that we should agree that the worst practices at present are that politicians pick their constituents rather than the other way around. And the best way to get around that is to have a system that is based on mathematics and rules for drawing districts, and we have no human decisions. If you really come up, and there are schemes that can be done. I have one. I'm sure other people can come up with other schemes that would work. But the whole idea is to eliminate human decision-making so that, as I like to say, any high school civics class could follow these rules and create district boundaries, and they would be the same in every state, and every district map drawn would be the same. They should be transparent and replicable. Then we get into the actual details of how this is done. I use a series of reference lines and scan lines, and basically scan across the state using zip code tabulation areas to form districts. I think when it gets done, you end up with district maps that are fair and reasonable, and we don't need to argue and litigate about them forever. So that's it. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Spear, and I can confirm that the commission did get your written submissions today. So thank you for those as well. Kristen, who is next?
All right. John, if you could take the timer off the screen. The next speaker is Jason Fornwalt. Mr. Fornwalt is not on as of yet, so we'll be moving to Robert Bowman. Mr. Bowman, you are now a panelist. Mr. Bowman, you'll need to unmute and share your screen if you would like, or start your video.
Okay, you there?
Yes, we are.
Okay, video's down. This is fine. Yes, my name's Robert Bowman. I live in Clear Spring, Maryland, Washington County, Western Washington County. And I would just like to hit on what the other 2 people from Western Maryland shared as far as the redistricting that went from when we had representation in Western Maryland in District 6 to where we were gerrymandered into Montgomery County, just enough to sway who got elected. It's my hope that the commission would take this, and I don't know what real hope there is of this actually getting through the legislative body in Annapolis, but I would just like to have some representation in the western part of the state that actually represents the people that live out here. There's really nobody in Western Maryland has a whole lot in common with what's going on in the part of Montgomery County we're gerrymandered into. We don't have the same economic situations. We don't have the same anything really. So now my representation is David Trone, and he has nothing in common with most everybody out in this end of the state. I appreciate your time, and I thank you for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. I believe I read that on deck is Delegate Brenda Thiem.
Yes, so yes, Delegate Brenda Cham is our next panelist. Delegate Cham, I am promoting you. Just unmute and start your video if you'd like to be on camera. There you are.
So thank you. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, thank you very much, Kristen. Yes, my last name is pronounced Cham. So for future reference, hopefully you guys will remember that. So again, thank you for allowing the opportunity for citizens to speak to the commission. And I want to speak on behalf of a citizen. I live here in Hagerstown, Maryland. I'm a voter here in the state of Maryland. And certainly, I just wanted to share not anything dramatic or that you probably don't already know. I may not even exhaust my 3 minutes, but hopefully this process will be very democratic and very fair out here in Western Maryland. As the gentleman mentioned before, David Trone doesn't really represent the citizens who live here in Western Maryland. So hopefully the commission will make good decisions on behalf of citizens here in Western Maryland. And we're just looking forward to the process that is going to be advantageous for all of the Marylanders here. And we're just looking forward to some good discussions that are going to come from the commission, resulting in lines that are going to be fair and balanced for all of us here in Maryland. So again, thank you for the opportunity this evening and for your time. Thank you.
And thank you, Delegate. Kristen,
right. The next speaker is Justin Wages. Mr. Wages, you are now a panelist.
All right. Hello, my name is Justin Wages. I am a lifelong resident of Frederick County and a rising senior at the University of Maryland, College Park. First off, I would like to thank the commission for the opportunity to speak. And although I do not always agree with him, I would like to thank Governor Larry Hogan for allowing the citizens of the great state of Maryland to have input on fixing the problems that were created under former Governor Martin O'Malley. The most pressing issue in this region is the lack of representation that Western Maryland experiences in Congress from the extreme gerrymandering of Congressional Districts 6 and 8. While there is no reason for both of Western Maryland's congressional districts to be lumped in with Montgomery County other than partisan gerrymandering. Friendsville and Gaithersburg have no connection except sharing Congressional District 6. Sibyllesville and Bethesda have no connection except sharing Congressional District 8. When the current districts were first put into practice, 20-year incumbent Congressman Roscoe Bartlett, who never received less than 57% of the vote in District 6, lost by nearly 20 percentage points. There's no way to convince me that this was not intentional. Western Maryland deserves to be heard, not drowned out by the liberal machine that is Montgomery County. District 6's current boundary leaves Washington, Allegheny, and Garrett counties voiceless, while District 8 does the same with the majority of Frederick County. According to the Maryland State Board of Elections, as of November 3rd, 2020, Republican voters account for just under 31% of the registered major party voters in the state. However, they are represented with only 12.5% of Maryland seats in the U.S. House because of gerrymandered districts. This is unacceptable and must be dealt with in a fair, nonpartisan manner. Shifting gears to legislative districts, Frederick County has been one of the fastest growing jurisdictions in the state. By my calculations, Frederick County has grown about 5.6% faster than the state in the last decade, while Frederick City has grown about 5.9% faster than the state in the same period. That being said, District 3A should not extend past city boundaries. There are many constituents of District 3A that live outside of the city, to the east and southeast specifically, that have more of a connection to District 4. I look forward to the commission creating fair, constitutionally sound districts for the state of Maryland for the next 10 years. I also look forward to Maryland voters opening their eyes if and when the Democratic supermajority in Annapolis rejects the fair boundaries. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Wages. Let me put in, not in particular about any one speech, that our commission is not allowed to take into account the political coloration of any localities in the state or the localities of where any incumbent or challenger may live. So to get the most out of 3 minutes, talk about other things, because we can't listen about the partisan stuff and the incumbent resident stuff. So Kristen, who is the next name on the list?
So our next two speakers have not been able to join us as of yet. They are Vontasha Sims from Charles County and Ken Kyler from Washington County. So the next person on the list, forgive me if I pronounce your last name wrong, is Richard Kaplawicz. And Richard, I am making you a panelist
Kaplawicz.
now.
Richard Kaplawicz. Hi, Richard, you're up.
Let me unmute. There we go. Good evening. I want to thank the people of the commission. I know Walter, I know the people on this commission will serve with distinction because they are community minded, and I thank them for their service to our community. I want to agree with some of the earlier speakers and disagree with some of them. I believe that the best representation is that which takes into account what is happening in an area and provides for the needs of that area. I believe that the congressmen who represent 6 and 8 right now, even though some people do not think they represent them, have worked on things such as broadband availability and fighting mental illness and fighting the drug problem, which is a problem in Western Maryland and a significant problem. So I don't think their criticisms are completely warranted when they say they are not represented. I am glad to hear that politics in terms of the political affiliation is not going to be used. But I would encourage that the state be looked at as a collection of neighborhoods, and that neighborhoods be kept together, and that the political power that has been denied in the past to communities of minority populations be considered, that no redistricting dilutes the power of those neighborhoods and those communities, that it be kept contiguous. But if that means that it expands outside of a city's boundaries and takes in a surrounding suburb of one of the cities, that that be done in order that the people and the neighborhoods who are represented by whoever still have representation for their minority community interest. So do not take into account politics and parties, but do take into account that people need to have political power, and that if you are cutting up or cutting through minority populations, you are diluting the political power of those minority populations. I wish I could say that it did not matter, but unfortunately in our current tribal political system, it does matter when you take away power from minority communities. So please consider keeping minority communities, contiguous minority communities together, and if necessary, expanding boundaries so that all of that community is able to represent themselves. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Richard. And yes, it's true. Richard and I do know each other from our both having spent a lot of time on Frederick County's Charter Review Commission process. So Kristen, who do we have up next?
Our next speaker is Seth Wilson from Washington County. Seth, you are now a panelist.
Okay, I think I've unmuted, so I think you all can hear me, yes?
We can.
Yes, we can.
Good. So I happen to think that the seeds of destruction of our state government were planted back in 1964 in the decision of Reynolds v. Sims, when the Supreme Court invalidated the way our state government was constructed. And it's taken a while, but it's now sort of, I think, fully come home to roost, because for the first time in my life, the last time the delegates and senators in Annapolis drew the map, they split Frederick County for the first time in my lifetime, and as far back as I could tell, right? Frederick County has never been split for a congressional district, and the congressional districts have always been representing, Frederick and points west. And so what did that mean? Well, what that meant was that since that district was drawn, the people in Western Maryland haven't had a representative in Congress since that time, right? Our current representative, right, ran for an entirely different district. And when he couldn't win that one, he came over to this one. And because of the way the map was drawn, he won this one. So we really don't have any representation in the federal government anymore. And then, I had a single member district for delegate, and the party in power in Annapolis saw fit to redraw the district so that, my single member district was all of a sudden now a 2-member district. There's absolutely positively no reason for us to be a 2-member district. That was purely partisan, and it was wrong. And what it means is that my representation in Annapolis was diluted. And so I don't have any representation, full representation like other places in the state do, right? And so now, where are we at, right? We don't have any representation in Congress. We don't have any representation in Annapolis. So yes, you all need to draw single member districts, get those back in place, right? And I would say that, I think also, and I don't know what, power the commission is really going to have to defeat what I expect is going to be a totally partisan drawing of the maps by the legislature and probably a subsequent override of the governor's veto. And then I've even heard rumblings that we're going to delay the formation of the districts because COVID, and we just throw all the rules out because of COVID. So I guess what I'm saying to the commission, I'm out of time. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Kristen, who's on up?
Our next speaker is William Zartman. Mr. Zartman has not joined us. Kai Hagan was on, but I think has dropped off. So we can come back to that individual as well. So our next speaker is Stephen Clark. So I will promote you to a panelist. And after Stephen Clark, Neil Parrott is the next one after him. But Stephen Clark from Frederick, you are now a panelist.
Thank you, members of the commission, for the opportunity to speak tonight. For the record, my name is Stephen Clark. I am a resident of Frederick County. And tonight, as you're considering drawing maps following the release of the census data, I have 2 recommendations for the commission. The first will be to reunify Frederick in one congressional district as it was before it was gerrymandered in 2012. Bethesda is a lovely place. I go there a lot, but it simply has nothing in common with the people who live in Thurmont and Emmitsburg in northern Frederick County. Frederick County deserves to be unified in one district. I'm a resident of Congressional District 8, but literally right across the street from me is Congressional District 6. It's confusing to the citizens of Frederick County and also dilutes the political power of Frederick County. Frederick County should be unified in one district as it was before. It should also be reunited with the Western Maryland counties and Carroll County like it was before. The second recommendation that I would make is that we have single-member House of Delegates districts. I am a resident of District 3B, but literally 2 miles up the street in 3A, they get 2 delegates. If you go 10 miles west to Middletown in District 4, they get 3 delegates. There's a fundamental fairness issue at play here. Some people are getting more representation than others. If we have single member districts, it makes it fair across the board. Everyone gets equal representation. So as the commission is drawing the maps, once we get the census data in late September, October, I ask that you keep these things in mind, keep Western Maryland together to make sure that we have a unified voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. And I understand that Delegate Neil Parrott is on deck to go next.
Yes, our next speaker is Delegate Parrott, and after that it will be Amy Wyckoff. Delegate Parrott, you are a panelist. And Delegate Parrott is from Washington County.
Very good. First, I want to say thank you for serving on the Redistricting Commission. Hopefully this is the first of many for every 10 years that we have a nonpartisan group getting together to make Maryland's maps. I really applaud you all for serving. I know it takes a lot of time. And Walter Olson, the judge, a few of you have been on here for several years, investing your time to help Maryland have more fair districts. And I just want to say thank you for that. You might know I was involved with mdpetitions.com, where about 8 years ago, we got the last districts on the ballot. The Washington Post, the Baltimore Sun, major newspapers all said that really the map that was made was not fair. We should overturn it. But unfortunately, the question was hard to understand, so it didn't pass. But I think if Marylanders understood the question, they would have united and said, no, we need to have a new district. And the reason they want a new district, and this panel is really taking care of that. I even wore purple today in light of that. We're not considering partisan politics here. We're actually just trying to do what's best for the citizens of Maryland. And I do agree with an earlier speaker, Richard Kaplawicz, and I'm sorry if I pronounced his name wrong, but he said that we need to keep communities together. And I believe that he's correct. I would really encourage you to keep our communities together, whether that's Garrett, Allegheny, Washington, Frederick, and Carroll. They're all very, very similar. I would think that would be a good way to start the map for Western Maryland. But people really just want fair districts, and I'm really thankful for you all serving on this commission. Really briefly, I'm going to go over to the state legislative districts. Single member districts are very helpful. When I first was elected in 2010, it was a single member district, and then the next time, 2014, it was a double member district. And it's just it's easier to be working with your constituents and to serve them well if it's a single member district. They know who to talk to and who to reach out to. It's not one of three, it's just one of one. And Maryland is in a unique position. There are only 10 states in the union that have multiple districts like Maryland does. And when you look at the actual breakdown of the 10 states, we're the only one that has a mixture of single, double, and triple member districts. No one else does that. New Hampshire and West Virginia, Vermont, they have a mixture of singles and doubles. We're the only one that has 1, 2, or 3. So I would encourage us to just go with a single member district type platform across the state. Again, I think it's more fair for each individual, and it's easier for the delegates and the constituents to actually know who they should be interacting with and how to help them best. And again, I just want to say thank you for letting us speak, letting the citizens speak. This is very, very important for democracy, as you all know. And again, I want to applaud you and wish you the best as you move forward and we get this data this coming fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. I think Amy Wyckoff is next in list.
Yes, she is. Amy, you're promoted to a panelist.
Hello, my name is Amy Wyckoff and I live in Montgomery County. I want to thank the commission for all your hard work. These kind of volunteer things are really important. I want to agree with some of the previous speakers who talked about the gerrymander District 6 and 8. I was helping a candidate in 2016 going out for Congressional District 8, and it was over an hour drive from the southern part of the district in very congested Montgomery County where I live to get all the way to Frederick. And they're just totally different kinds of communities. So I agree that we should have them more compact and not looking like octopuses and everything. The other issue is the existence of multi-member districts, which have been denounced by U.S. Supreme Court justices across the political spectrum. Justice Sandra Day O'Connor wrote that the, quote, the multi-member district inherently submerges the votes of the minority. Diverse candidates from outside the establishment are discouraged from running because of the high cost of campaigning in large areas with some 90,000 residents. In voters' minds, multi-member districts are a rigged system because the dominant group always wins. Every politician acts in the interest of those who elect them. It is easy for them to ignore the views of constituents not needed for re-election. When there are too many residents in a district, delegates cannot handle issues in depth, thus shortchanging the people they represent. They turn to groups and lobbyists with packaged legislation. The vast majority of multi-member districts are represented by delegates from the same political party and vote in unison on legislation. Single delegate districts are the most reliable method to ensure that all voters have an equal vote. Small single delegate districts allow a delegate to get to know constituents. A smaller compact district with fewer constituents will encourage a healthy competition of candidates representing diverse interests in the community. Finally, a candidate for a single district seat can run a successful grassroots campaign on a more modest budget. Again, thank you for letting me speak and for for your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wyckoff. Video at the very end. Kristen, who's next?
Our next speaker is Lewis Turner. And after Lewis Turner, it is Robert Keene. Lewis Turner, you are now a panelist. Lewis, it looks like you're muting and unmuting. You'll just need to unmute. And if you'd like to start your video, you may as well.
Okay, I don't know how to get this video started. I have one basic comment that I do want to make. I sense very strongly our political process also needs to reflect our communities. And our communities have been divided by the past political process of gerrymandering. And we need to bring our communities back together. And that is my purpose on being on tonight, to speak to that we need to consider keeping our community together so that we have solid representation in Congress. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Mr. Keene.
Yes, and Mr. Turner is from Frederick County. Robert Keene is our next speaker. Robert is from Washington County, and following Robert will be Jim Richards from Frederick County. Robert, you are now a panelist.
Good evening. My name is Bob Keene. I've been a resident of Maryland all my 79 years, born in South Baltimore. Parents raised us in Baltimore County. My wife, Judy, who passed away a year ago, and I raised our family in Howard County. I now live in Keedysville, Maryland, which is near the Antietam battlefield, where thousands of men gave their lives to keep our Union whole. And I'm testifying today, if that's what it's considered, because I don't believe that the way that our districts are currently divided, that we in Western Maryland are being adequately represented. Our culture and our values, are somewhat unique to Western Maryland. And I believe strongly that we should have someone from our community in Western Maryland who represents our, our community. With that, I'll turn it back to you, and thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. Keene. Jim Richards is next.
Yep, Jim is from Frederick County. Jim, you are a panelist.
Okay, I just unmuted. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Jim Richards. I live in Thurmont, Maryland, Frederick County, in one of the most convoluted districts. I'm not sure if it's the most convoluted district in Maryland, but one of them, and maybe even in the entire country, because I am in the same legislative district with Tacoma Park. So it's been extremely frustrating for me to be drawn, to have that district redrawn the way it was, to obviously, for political purposes, to obviously get the incumbent Roscoe Bartlett defeated. And now, my representative is Jamie Raskin. Basically, he's a nice guy. I've met him. I've talked to him before, but he represents Tacoma Park very, very well. But for rural areas like this out here, a little more conservative, or maybe a lot more conservative than Tacoma Park. And I know we're not supposed to talk politics here, but it's very, very frustrating to have been disenfranchised in this way. At a minimum, I'd like to see Frederick County joined back into the 6th district. So the entire county is in one district again. So again, I appreciate the opportunity to just voice my frustration with this. I really feel like a lot of us out here have been disenfranchised and really have no representation in the political sphere at all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. Kristen, who's next?
Our next speaker is John Hose, but it appears that John has dropped off of the call. If he rejoins, we will add John back on. So our next speaker is David Wallace. It appears that David perhaps has also not been able to join the call, in which case we move to Zaley Harris. And Zaley is from Charles County. And after Zaley, we have Barbara Kramer from Harford County. Zaley, you are now a panelist.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Amy Wakeoff made what I was going to say very simple, and that is communities need to, as the federal government say, stay within their contiguous communities. They need to not be for partisan reasons. I spoke in the 2010, and it was absolutely in front of Senator Mike Miller, and who set the commission up. It was absolutely horrible. And so since I do support single member districts, and I'm going to try to follow this commission through all of its speaking, I want to make sure that everything that Ms. Wycliffe mentioned goes into effect. In addition, I don't want to have to be in Annapolis with hundreds of people fighting because all of the hard work that you guys are going to do and deliver to the voters is going to be undone because of a political PAC or a lobbyist group feeding into multiple districts. So please keep it single member district as best as possible, and keep it with the contiguous districts of the people, so that not only minorities are represented well, but the community itself, the neighborhoods itself. Drawing line, I lived in Prince George's County for 30 plus years before I moved to Charles County. And I had to deal with political pacts and then delegates and one senator and then the senator moved to Calvert County. It was horrible to have to deal with the type of politics that we have had to deal with. Let's keep it for the people, by the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Harris.
All
Barbara
right.
Kramer, you're next.
Yep. From Harford County, Barbara, you are now a panelist. Barbara, we're seeing no audio from you. If you could check your microphone. It may be a microphone setting on your computer.
Barbara, we're not hearing anything from you. Could it be something on your computer's end?
So Barbara, I think what we'll do is we'll move to the next speaker and come right back to you. And if you could just check your microphone on your computer. And the next speaker is Jeremy Rothwell from Kent County. Jeremy, you are now a panelist. John, if you could keep Barbara as a panelist, as if we move her back, I don't know if I can promote her again.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the commission. Sorry, I was not able to make the Eastern Shore work session. I unfortunately had to work planning commission. I'm a local government planner by training. I work with maps all the time. I'm also a former staff member in the Maryland House Delegates. Most people this evening have spoke about gerrymandering. I want to bring up a that has not been talked about at all, and that's the apportionment of the state legislative districts. So whereas
Barbara, we can hear you now. Just if you could wait till Mr. Rothwell has had a chance to speak, and then you'll be next. Stay where you are, and you'll get your chance. Sorry, Mr. Rothwell.
So what I'm here to talk to you about is specifically about state level apportionment. So congressional districts are required to be with population be within 1% of one another. 1973 court case Gaffney v. Cummings and a couple of other court cases allowed state legislative districts to vary by up to 10%, which is a good thing. That allows it allows you to utilize existing political boundaries and community boundaries in drawing districts. However, in 2002 and in 2012, with the Governor Glendenning and Governor O'Malley really abused the system for partisan political advantage. And you should have received a map, a spreadsheet, and written testimony from me. But I want you to take a look at that. I took all the legislative districts and mapped them, color-coded them by the percent of median from the ideal population size. And Maryland, on the surface, legislative districts vary by about 9.4%. However, legislative districts are, when you look at the spreadsheet, are almost like a U-shaped. Most of them are either grossly overrepresented or grossly underrepresented. And the ones that are grossly overrepresented are all entirely in Baltimore City, Prince George's County, and Montgomery County. All of the districts on the Eastern Shore and in Southern Maryland and Central Maryland, the more conservative leading suburbs and ex-urban communities of the state, are all grossly underrepresented. The average delegate in Baltimore City represents almost 4,000 people less than a district on the Eastern Shore. And I'd like to know, why is that fair? I'm a 12th generation Eastern Shoreman. I'd like to think that I deserve the same representation as somebody in Baltimore City does. And if you look at it from a partisan political standpoint, and in terms of how it was done in the past, if you look at the spreadsheet, you will notice that almost all the districts, all but one, as a matter of fact, that are over 4%, overrepresented. Every single one of them are represented by Democrats, and I'm speaking as a former Democrat myself. That's just not wrong. Every single district which is underrepresented are represented by Republicans or by your more moderate to conservative Democrats in the House. And I certainly, hoped that you would rectify that going forward. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rothwell. Barbara, it's your turn now if you can join us.
And John, could you take the timer off the screen, please? There we go. And
okay, can you hear me now?
We can, yes.
And yes.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate you all taking on this service, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I'm being focused on Harford County, where I live, so thank you for admitting me to the Western Maryland meeting. I appreciate your predecessor commission taking many of my suggestions, especially as they referred to the 1st Congressional District 10 years ago, and I hope you all will take my suggestions this time around. I will not take time to debate with any of the speakers because I might not be able to get all my points in if I do, but I'll try to put my debate into written comments. But I would quote Senator William S. James from Harford County, who said, "When people say we should listen to the grassroots, they need to recognize that not all of the roots are saying the same thing." And that's the case within legislative and congressional districts as well. In regard to legislative districts, in Harford County, all of the District 34 is now contained in Harford County, and it represents approximately the development envelope. But District 34 is divided into two pieces. 34A is the Route 40 and Route 95 corridor, and 34B is Bel Air. That was created out of partisan concerns, that is a separation for Bel Air, and it has functioned to keep one party in power in District 34B. I would respectfully request that there isn't any reason to divide District 34 into A and B, and that you reunify that district. Also, the minor pieces of Harford County, which are on either side of District 34, are joined with Baltimore County and Cecil County, and those joinings put Harford County residents at a disadvantage. They're pretty much ignored by the more dominant neighboring districts where those representatives come from. So I would respectfully request that a larger piece of District 35, which is shared with Cecil County, be in Harford County, maintaining 34 as one of 3-member district. I would also ask that the piece of Harford County that's joined with Baltimore County not be joined with Baltimore County anymore. Make a District 35, and then we might have 2 districts within Harford County. As to the governor's charge to create maximum single-member districts, I heard that this was coming from a court case, but it's naive to suggest that that doesn't come from partisan motives just because it comes from a court. Justice Connor was a Republican legislator before she was a Supreme Court justice. I'd recommend that the commission continue 3-member districts and try to have a minimum of single-member districts. And remember that county lines are not sovereign. State lines are sovereign. It is recommended that municipalities not be divided up, but counties have to be divided up. I mean, I'm sympathetic with what people from Carroll County and Frederick County say, but welcome to the world. Harford County and Anne Arundel County have been cut up.
Ms. Kramer, you're out of time, unfortunately, but we welcome your filing supplementary written comments as we do from all speakers. But thank you for your contribution.
All right, our next speaker is Carol Yarsepi with the League of Women Voters in Frederick County. Carol, you are now a panelist.
Okay, as you said that, had a big lightning. almost lost you there. So thank you. Good evening, members of the commission. My name is Carol Jarsepe, and I am president of the local league of the women voters of Frederick County. Thank you again for the opportunity to provide comments at this listening session. As you all know, the League of Women Voters is the nation's oldest nonpartisan voter education and advocacy group. We are nonpartisan and do not support specific political candidates or parties. The League strongly supports the state redistricting process that promotes a fair and effective representation of our citizens in the General Assembly. We commend Governor Hogan for establishing this independent and multi-party approach to the state redistricting commission. We also appreciate the commitment of the commission members and the challenge I know you all face. We thank you for your commitment to creating a fair and impartial map for the next decade. Frederick County is split and divided into two congressional districts. Maryland's congressional districts 6 and 8 both were considerably altered during the last state redistricting. The 6th district encompasses sections of southern Frederick County, part of northwestern Montgomery County, all of Washington County, Garrett County, and Allegheny counties to the west. The 8th district encompasses sections of northern Frederick County, part of northeastern Montgomery County, and Carroll County to the west. These geographic areas of these two districts represent areas with significant differences in needs, political orientation, from the transit-oriented urbanized metro suburbs of Montgomery County to the mountains of Western Maryland and the farmlands of Frederick and Carroll County. I will add one personal note. I live in Maryland Legislative District 3B, and I will concur with several previous callers. I have one delegate in District 3B, while District 3A and 4 have 2 or more delegates. The League of Women Voters of Frederick County urges the commission to strongly consider geographic and natural areas, as well as what several have suggested, consider keeping neighborhoods and communities whole. Political party affiliation and the voter registration should not be a tool to manipulate registration. We hope this redistricting process will become a model for Maryland and even other states for decades to come. And we thank you again for listening and for your work on this commission. We are here ready to assist you in any way we can. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you also for your supplemental written testimony, which the commission received today. Kristen, who's next?
So our next speaker is Richard Eggvette. Richard, you are now a panelist.
Good evening, and thank you all for everything that you're doing here. It's good to see some faces I remember from the last time that you were talking to folks out here in Western Maryland. Sorry you couldn't make it out here this time. It's a beautiful place. And just for everyone else that I haven't met before, I live about less than 10 miles from the Western Maryland border at the Northern Peninsula for West Virginia. That's about 3 hours away if you're getting down to the southern end of District 6. That's a little long for a district. Now, keep in mind is I also live in an area that is not heavily populated, and I understand that. But I think as we look at this, there's a couple of things I'd like to say. First of all, obviously, I'm a voter out here in Garrett County. But Bob Spear spoke earlier. He's also from Garrett County. He and I have talked about his proposals, and I generally endorse what he's putting together as an idea as to how to do it. Whether there's other ways of doing it, that's fine and dandy. But I do want to generally support his concepts as we go at it. But I'm also a geographer by training. And as I look at the geography of the state of Maryland, you have 2 realistic issues you got to pay attention to. You have a major geographical feature, the Chesapeake Bay, which has a big impact when it comes to keeping neighborhoods together. You also have the mountains of Western Maryland, which is, let's just say, 3/4 of the District 6 area, which no matter what has to be attached somewhere. But that's when I get back to that whole idea of 3-hour drive. For instance, for me to get to Frederick is a 2-hour and 20-minute drive from where I live. However, if I try to get down to the end of the current district, it's at least 3 hours, and that's hoping that I don't try to do it during rush hour, which adds on another, you tell me, half an hour getting down the 295 corridor. I think these are very realistic things that need to be looked at. I endorse what Paul or Bob has put together, but I think you have these geographical aspects that need to be balanced. And maybe by balancing those, that will allow then the focus to take place where things are much easier to come together in the middle. So those are the key things that I wanted to focus on. And I want to thank you again for your time and your efforts. And I look forward to your successful conclusion and recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eggvette. Kristen, who's next?
Our next speaker is Jocelyn Doyle. I do not have a county from where Jocelyn is from. The following speaker after Jocelyn is our last registered speaker for this evening, Howard Guerrell. Mr. Guerrell, I have you listed twice in the attendees list. If perhaps one of those individuals is an interpreter, just let us know. I think somebody has sent you a chat in the chat box if you could check it. With that, I will make Jocelyn Doyle a panelist. Jocelyn, you are now a panelist.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn Doyle, and I was born and raised in Washington County, and I just want to give you I didn't intend to speak today, but I keep hearing a lot about representation, and I just want to give you my testimony about I feel I have not had representation, that I have over the last 4 years begged for representation. I am a Department of Veteran Affairs whistleblower. I disclosed some very important disclosures that need to be handled. I begged to our congressman, Delaney at the time, Trone, and I feel I was ignored. I did reach out to many governors, senators, congressmen of my state, of other states, all around, and everybody just kept sending me back to Delaney or Trone. My delegate up here was wonderful. It was nice to just have a reply thanking me for serving our men and women of our military, and that meant the world to me. But I feel like representation has not been there for me, and it could have made a huge difference in this 4 years that I've been fighting as a whistleblower for help, because I've read over and over that if he would have reached out to the judge, or if he would have, reached out to my director of my Veteran Affairs hospital, that it would have helped. And I've asked during testimony court cases, did anybody reach out to you, my congressman? And they said no. And I'm like, so up here in Western Maryland, I just fell upon deaf ears. And we need whistleblowers. Whistleblowers are super important, especially for our military. We wouldn't be here on this earth if it wasn't for our military fighting for us. So I feel really strongly, and I just, I also reached out to them about my union not helping me. They were actually against me. The retaliation started turning into discrimination. And so now I'm battling. I won my first case at the U.S. Court of Appeals as a whistleblower against the judge. So that's a good thing. I'm now fighting discrimination at the Maryland District Court. And I, again, just, and I, it could have made a huge difference in these last 4 years of the most awful, horrendous, traumatic, life-changing retaliation and discrimination I have received. And thank you all for what you do, and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Ms. Doyle. Kristen, did we have any additional names before Howard Guerrell? I know Howard has is going to have special issues on connecting.
I do not see any as of right now. We may have some that joined after we called their names. So I will.
I saw in chat that Vantasha Sims may have joined us, possibly because Howard, I believe, asked to be the last to testify because of his special issues.
I'm not sure if Vantasha got back to us as to whether or not she would like to speak, but I'm going to go ahead and promote Vantasha to a panelist, and she can let us know. Vantasha, did you still want to present this evening? Vantasha, you'll need to unmute. Looks like her phone is broken. Okay.
Her phone is broken, she says.
Yeah. So the next speaker and the final speaker, I believe, is Howard.
Maybe promote both of Howard's connections.
Yes, I can. Howard, you are now a panelist, and I will make both of your connections Please use your voice for reading for recording.
But please use your voice for it. Kristen, would you like to do that?
Sure. My name is Howard L. Guerrell. Am I pronouncing that correctly, sir? Can you give me a nod?
Yes, I think you are, Kristen.
All right. I am a global nomad since September 2019. Currently, I am staying at an Airbnb room in Oakland, Maryland of Garrett County. How to divide a county in redistricting drawing. Use the community of interest. Orioles District, Nationals District. Baltimore City's blue-collar white neighborhoods, heavily Jewish Pikesville neighborhoods. Tears the page. Agriculture related area, industrial related area. Tears the page. Interstate 270 corridor, Interstate 95 corridor. Tears the page. But how to divide the best way is blank question mark. Relying on clusters of high schools and their feeder schools. Maryland political analyst Todd Eberly states, Guerrell's decision to rely on the school district as the basic unit of community represents a true understanding of the building blocks of neighborhoods and common ground. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Guerrell.
Thank you, Howard Guerrell. And I must also congratulate Howard for his creativity. He presented in Cumberland through a more conventional means of an American Sign Language interpreter. Howard is quite an expert on redistricting and has written many articles on it. So thank you again, Howard Guerrell. Kristen, does that finish our speaker list for the evening, or has anyone come in?
It does. It does complete our speaker list. We've gone through to see if there was anyone who joined that we had called that had joined after we called their names, and there doesn't appear to be anyone else that has joined or asked to speak in the chat.
Okay. Well, what we do at this point is we have an agenda item of additional business of the commission. We will be talking, and if perhaps someone who had been on the sign-up sheet or does arrive late, there is still a chance if they come in the next few minutes. But in the meantime, let me turn to the commissioners and ask if there is, or perhaps first, Kristen, should I ask you first about new business or ask the commissioners about new business?
Ask the commissioners, absolutely.
Okay. Do any of the commissioners have new business or questions about old business that they'd like to bring up? Okay, I don't see any. Kristen, are there any updates based on work the staff has been doing?
William has a question, it looks like.
Oh, okay.
I do. I was wondering if we had an update on the application process as far as the advisors to the South Asian community, as that deadline passed to receive nominations and.
Yep, and we reviewed them. I'll send out an email to everybody with an update on that later on. We also, I will be also sending you an update later on the presentation that will come from the NCSL that I sent an email about. The two dates that we had were July 8th and July 19th. It appears that July 8th works well for everyone. I think, Jay, I think that might not be a great date for you. It may work out for you. If it doesn't, it will be recorded and you can watch the recording and then connect directly with the presenters so that if you have any questions, you can connect directly with them, and it won't be as if you couldn't speak with them live. So that will be next week, July 8th. I will get that meeting posted to our website as well. But that will be July 8th at noon, if you could mark your calendars. And also we did discover right before this meeting of a glitch that you guys have still need an email with some of the testimony that came in for a couple of the previous meetings, and I will send that out right after the meeting as well.
Kristen, first, we do have one more request to speak. I wonder, would this be a good time for me to say a little bit more about the NCSL presentation, because it might be of interest to some members of the public who might want to tune in. I expect it will be very educational. This is a presentation that specialists from the National Conference of State Legislatures will be giving. They have a department that assists states, commissions, and legislators with the redistricting process, and they provide their experts to give customized presentations for the particular situation of different states. And they've agreed to do this for Maryland, July 8th, and a lunchtime meeting. It's going to be a highly informative hour. And again, the public is very much invited to tune in. The commissioners will be able to ask questions. And I think it will be a well-spent hour for everyone. The request from chat for a speaker was Mike Show, I believe.
Right, Mike, I don't have quite yet what county you are from. It's not listed for me yet, but I am promoting you to a panelist.
There, I think you guys can hear me now and see me. So just real quick, so we've been getting some crazy thunderstorms up here. So there's people in Washington County, someone from Washington County, and I think I signed on right when we were getting one of those bad storms here in Clear Spring. So I apologize. I just want to real quick, and I want to thank Brenda and Neil from up here in Washington County for being involved in this today. I mostly talked to Neil about this, and Neil's very passionate, and I love that passion that Neil has for this redistricting stuff. So, but real quick, the problem that I have with this redistricting using the census, I mean, of course, we got to use the census. That's what the federal government does. I work for the federal government. A census is only good as the information that you receive and the information is put in. So there's human error all across the census. I mean, it's data. So unless it was robots putting it in, I hope that you guys actually take into consideration, kind of do a ranking. It'd be nice to see. I work at NIH and we do peer review, and we actually rank applications to give funding out for research. Is to see a ranking of like core issues. So as culture to me would be one, the census would be another, and natural boundaries. I think everybody's kind of hit on all three of those. But I would rank those and give those some weight. And the consideration of any redistricting or drawing of lines, because all those things matter. I mean, culture matters, the census, it matters, but I mean, sometimes people don't take the census, I don't think, very serious. Some people think it's a joke and actually send in kind of, joyfully information. It can be bad information. So I really hope that this committee, and I hope, whoever does the final approach on this thing actually says, do we really look at all three of these things? Because I think all three of those things are important. And I know for Western, I work in Bethesda, okay? And I can tell you right now, Bethesda, Potomac, Rock, all that area is not Washington County. It never has been. It never will be. It's completely different. So whoever is in our District 6, they're gonna flock to Montgomery County to get funding. They're gonna flock to Montgomery County to find out what the problems are before they go to Western Maryland because of the density of the population. And I get it that there is an amount of population that you gotta have in a district, but I do think that there has to be some the census, and of course the population density. So I just wanted to throw that out there to you guys, and I hope you guys do it in a weighted kind of situation and not just go by the census. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Cham. Kristen, does that wrap it up as far as speaker list?
I think it does. If Secretary McCourt has anything he'd like to share, any updates?
Thank you, Kristen. We're still working on making sure we have tools available to you, and still working on setting up as many tools as we can for you. And so we will getting you a map that has the current districts on it, and a map that you will be able to see underlying that map census information as best we can. So that's almost finished, and we'll have it to you as soon as we can.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners, or if not, I will.
Yes. I'm not sure what's happening in the chat, but there seems to be someone who's saying vote for such and such. I'm not. Is that allowed, given what the rules we set for as campaigning, etc.?
Not.
Kristen, I think he's referring to Von Tasha's username.
Yes. As this is a nonpartisan commission, it would be best if we had names representing your actual name so that we can call you. So to those who are attending, if you are going to be a speaker, please make sure your name represents your full first and last name and not any kind of committee or organization to which you belong.
Good point.
Thank you, William.
Thank you, William. Any other comments before we take a motion to adjourn? Okay. Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I'd so move.
Second? Second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. We are adjourned till next week. That one will be Central Maryland, 1 week from tonight. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, Jackson. Hi, Cheryl. Jackson, thank you so much for doing that for us. And